Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us today at the Festival of Innovation. I've got a fantastic panel here with me today to talk all about immersive experiences. And I think we're just going to jump straight in. Damian, do you want to start off by introducing yourself and where you're from?
Sure. Thanks, Ruth. I'm Damian Norman. I'm Director of Immersive Entertainment for Immerse London, UK's first immersive entertainment district.
Christian?
Hi. Great to see you, Ruth, and everybody on the panel. I'm Christian Lachel, Chief Creative Officer for BRC Imagination Arts. We create experiences and brand destinations worldwide, and really excited to be on the panel with everybody. Great to see you all.
Thanks so much. And Kate?
Hi, everyone. Kate McConnell, Senior Creative Director at THG Creative. We are like BRC, we get to design these wonderful immersive experiences from brand centers, theme parks, cultural attractions, and museums all over the world.
Amazing. Thank you so much. We'll jump straight into it then. And we're going to start off by the nice stuff, which is talking about immersive experiences and what makes them successful, something you all know an awful lot about. Damian, I wanted to start with you because, of course, you've done an amazing job at Immerse London. It's become a real hub for immersive experiences. For those who haven't been yet, do make sure you go. What do you look for when you're looking for new experiences to bring into the venue?
Yeah, great question, Ruth. I mean, we run 9 now, so you learn a little bit with each one, and 1.5 million visitors to date. So I think there's a couple of camps. You've got things that have toured the world that have got great visitor numbers and reviews. So there's a staple there. If something's reviewing north of 4.2 stars, say, and it sold 100,000 tickets here or 500,000 tickets there, it's probably going to be quite good. And we have a rule that we absolutely have to go and see anything that we might be considering working with. And then you've got then the other side of it, which is something we feel very passionate about. That's the innovation, and that's great ideas and great concepts and things that the world's never seen before, which has a lot more risk and has a lot more power to fail, if you like. But they have to launch and they have to start somewhere. So if everyone's always just chasing those big, well-known Hollywood IPs, and where's the creativity? Where do you enter the market? So it's kind of finding that blend. And I think the most important thing, I think, the more we do this, is trying to understand the people behind it. There's so many people that have got great creative brains and have got all the ideas, and you need that. But you also need people that have got really, really sharp operational brains that understand what flow looks like. And you try and put 350 people through something that's got a 2 meter wide window, and they're trying to read something off the wall. You've got a disaster in your hands. And all of that really, really small stuff, especially them working with actors and how you look after them. And they're an integral part of the set. And then lastly, the other ingredients are marketing and making sure that you know your audience and how to talk to them. And then that financial director, a lot of these experiences, you see people, they spend so much time on all of those really important parts. And then at the end of it, it closes after 3 months. Everyone's like, why did that close? Well, it closes for all the same reasons. It closes because it lost money or didn't make money. So that's my sort of long-winded answer of saying that you look for lots and lots of different things. But I think at core, it has to be the cast and crew that are behind it. You have the best IP in the world, wrong execution, it's going to fail. You can have the best idea in the world without the right people to bring it to life that know how to work this very complex industry, then you're going to have challenges.
Thank you so much. And I guess, Christian and Kate, you guys are the people, you're the teams that bring these things together. You're the people that Damian and places like that are looking for. So Christian, you work on all sorts of projects at BRC, but what are your clients asking you for? I know we've had it from Damian's side, but what are you seeing anything else that clients are wanting that you've been surprised by, or anything that you see as a bit of a green flag for a potential success?
I think it's always been consistent with us, and I think we're seeing this staying true. You've got to have a really good business case. You can have, I think Damian's absolutely 100% correct. We work in a wide range of different types of projects, be working with brands, or let's even museums understand they don't have the funding that they used to. So they know they need one client said, you have to turn the turnstiles. That was the goal. We need to make sure that even from a museum perspective, that if we're not moving, people through and improving the business case, and the performance. We just don't have the fundraising that we used to have and the sponsorship. So it's really important. So we're seeing it across the board. I think everybody is stretching and trying to figure out the right balance for their type of organization. But I think it always comes down to understanding, that you have to have a good sense check around it. I was fortunate enough when I started in this industry to work with Buzz Price, Harrison Price, who was Walt's.
Wow.
That was like when I first started, it was Bob, Buzz, and I would go on the road. And it was just the three of us. And that's where you sat in the room and watched the master think about the economics on a project right from the start. So I've never uncoupled even as my background as a designer, I've always had this sort of other, that left brain, right brain thinking always with our projects. And I think that's what clients are looking for. They want to have a great immersive idea, a great concept, great sort of, something that's really going to, set things apart and transform audiences. But if it's not backed with a really strong sense of purpose and business sensibility, feasibility, we're not seeing those things get off the ground. And I think that's why we had another client who said, I have hundreds of master plans. I'm tired of just doing master plans. Get us things that are real. And I think we've been fortunate enough to work on a lot of projects that actually get executed, get produced, and actually do turn the turnstiles and are successful businesses. And we're seeing more and more of that. But there's a lot of pressure on that. We can talk more about that as a team, as a group, if we want. But we got to get all those ingredients right.
Yeah, thank you. And Kate, same to you, I guess, because THG Creative, you guys work on all sorts, from museums to observation towers to immersive experiences. So is there anything that you see across the board that really makes or breaks an experience?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's not really an X factor, like the secret sauce of like, this is the thing, and if you have this one thing, it'll be a success. There's obviously a lot of different factors that go into it. But one that I've been thinking a lot about lately is really audience. And I think starting with the audience first, who are you talking to, right? How well do they know this IP? How can you speak to the deep divers of the IP as well as the people who are brand new to it, right? How can you make sure that you're kind of really being targeted and focused in how you create that experience? Because if you're not thinking about who you're giving it to or selling it to, then who's going to come to it, right?
Yeah, and I guess that speaks really, I know Damian mentioned the marketing, but it is such an important part of that. Starts really when you're designing an experience, doesn't it? About who you're marketing to and who your audience are.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's, being able to really define, one of the things we always like to do as designers, I know, BRC as well, like, is think outside the box, right? But in order to do that, you need to have the box to start. And so being able to really specifically define that business case that Christian was talking about, being able to define, the audience, these things help us build that box that then we can think about how we're going to subvert expectations, how we're going to bring surprise and delight, all of those things that make an amazing, successful production.
Thank you. So then, question to the panel. Everybody's talking about the finances, the operational, the box that you need to be able to think outside the box. But how do you balance that? Because surely you could run forever down one of those roads of, keeping it operational, keeping it financial, keeping it creative. But actually, how do you balance that and make a successful immersive experience, Christian?
Yeah, I think the key thing, and Kate hit it on the head, we get out of the gate early. We do a sense check. We spend a little bit of time. We understand kind of what the sort of parameters are around the business case early, but then it's got to be tied to a great concept. It's got to be tied to something that's really going to move the audience. And that's where we talk about like magic with heart, right? We start always in the heart of the audience and work outward. So I think with that, it's really trying to find the right creative hooks and the right sort of immersive moments or elements that are going to create something unique and different that the audience is really looking for. So part of that is, for example, if you look at like the USA Pavilion in Osaka, we knew the audience loved space. They had seen the expo in 1970. We were coming back with this pavilion. We knew the audiences were anxious to see the moon rock, but we wanted to do something different. So we created this incredible immersive moment that was 9 meters tall in this space that was surrounding the audience with this giant mirror. One of the most social, it's probably the largest, the biggest social moment at the expo. but we knew we engineered it backward, right? Because we knew what the audience was looking for, just as Kate mentioned. We knew that they were they really wanted this moment, but we also knew that a lot of the audience was going to be older generations in Japan, right? So they've seen things on screens. We live here all day long, right? On this little screen, right? We need to do something you can't do anywhere, like at home. So we knew we had to have something unexpected. So that ability to compress the audience and so slowly kind of get them into smaller spaces and then have it open up to this large unexpected room, which is fully immersive, it was a hit, right? So we kind of knew that that's what we were going for, and that payoff. So we engineered it backwards so that it became a hit. But we knew what the audience was seeking, and I think it all starts with the heart of the audience and doing something magical and unexpected, because we see so much of the same. I mean, I think the one thing that we're often seeing now is very tired techniques, but I think it's the combination of things that are out there in new, unique ways that are going to make something magical and memorable. And I think we have to push the industry in that way and not just rinse and repeat of what's been done before.
Yeah. And I think, sometimes to Christian's point, like the parameters, those, the operational or financial parameters can actually lead you to some really magical things. For example, THG opened recently the Top of the Rock experience in New York City. Right. And so when you're thinking about an observation deck and how you've got a limited number of elevators, you've got to get people up there. You don't want people like waiting in line a long time. So one of the things that THG did was they created this 6-minute show that happens on a lower floor before you take the elevators up to the observation deck. So that was a way to have a pulse point so that you don't have this kind of long queue where you're just waiting and getting impatient and standing by the elevator. But it also let us tell this really great, rich, important story about Rockefeller Center, about the building of the center. And it helped set up the beam, right? The beam is the ride that's up on the observation deck. If you remember the lunch on a skyscraper iconic photo, right, of the workers on it. So that was actually taken at Rockefeller Center, that when they were building Rockefeller Center. And so this, the ride lets you recreate that photo up on the top of Rockefeller Center. So the show was a great chance to tell that story, really get you excited, hooked, connected emotionally to Rockefeller Center, what it represented, the sort of sense of optimism that Rockefeller was representing in the height of the Great Depression when he was building Rockefeller Center. And then that really makes that ride experience, which is cool just on its own, right? If you're up there on the top of it and you're riding this beam, that's great. But now it has this really emotional impact as well, which I think is really important. Again, to Christian's point.
Mm-hmm. Thank you so much. And Damian, I mean, you have, as you said, you've had 9 experiences at Immerse London now, but I know one that's very different, I think, for me, is the Fame Factory experience, which is, as Christian said, something that's not really been done before. I know it's been in the KSA, but it's new to London, it's new to the UK. And that's, I think, really flips things on its head when it comes to that audience expectation. So what was the, how do you make that last? Because that's really all about the Instagrammable moments, isn't it? It's all about making you into a celebrity.
Yeah, I mean, it's a really unique concept. Part of the challenges with these things is balancing out so that's a very cast-led experience. And what makes it great is that it's very personal. You're not being pulsed through and like 50 of you, it's 6 to 8 of you at any one time. Mm-hmm. So you do feel like the star of the show. But that's got a heavy OPEX per person through it. Yeah. So with things like that, I mean, we're all aware of You and Me Bum Bum Train. You and Me Bum Bum Train wasn't designed to make any money, right? And that's probably why it's so brilliant. So when you try and commercialize these things and make them, a kind of modern day Madame Tussauds, as I called it a long time back, if you're going to do that and you're not going to automize it with technology and you're going to make it with human beings, that business model needs to be really, really robust. I think it's finding that balance between walking around quite a static, we've all done it with the Vincent van Goghs and everything else. And, 5 years ago, that was like, wow, look at that. It's cool. You've taken something on a wall and put it, and you put some classical music to it. Wow. And then millions of tickets later, everyone's kind of looking at what's the next thing. We've got technology and AI driving relentlessly us into the future and driving down the cost of tech and and being able to do some amazing things. But finding that balance between the human element and the allowing creativity to become all the things it can by using AI and tech and the reducing cost of tech is really interesting. But it's such a fascinating space, this industry at the moment, because it's so hard to get that balance right and to actually end up with a commercially viable product. To actually say, look, our break even is, I don't know, 150,000, 200,000 tickets at 20 pounds a go. How do you do that and to sustain that, and how long do you sustain that for? Is it just customer reviews? Is it marketing spend? As Kate said, it's knowing your addressable audience and going after that audience. Remember when we launched with Jurassic World, we sold 314,000 tickets in 4.5 months. I was like, wow, this is a really easy industry. This is perfect. We just need to do more of this. And then and then the next one doesn't sell as well. You're like, okay, well, all right, that's very different. I think it was Kate or Christian said there's no secret sauce, right? Nobody's cracked the perfect. And then if someone does, then that gets copied, or next year it's something else, and it's evolving at such a pace. It's very, very hard to sit there and go, that's going to be the thing for 2027. That's going to be the thing that everyone's going to want more than anything else. And it might be there's something we haven't seen yet, and it's in the brain of someone sat in front of a computer right now. But I think finding that originality, finding that combination of factors that make it a knockout hit is what underpins its success, really.
Yeah, thank you so much. And I'm now going to move on to asking you the question that I know you don't want to be asked, which is, what is the thing for 2026 or 2027? What is that secret sauce? So it's becoming popular. The immersive market's booming. It's really saturated, as we know. What's the thing? I'm going off question slightly. I hope that's okay. But I'd love to know what you think the next thing is. Damian, we'll start with you as you ask the question.
Thanks. Just before Christmas, I was in Italy, and I was in Paris talking to different producers, different things. And it's interesting. I think it's an English word, but the term goosebumps, it doesn't translate immediately, certainly into Italian, into French, and they both have individual words for it, of which I've written down in the different books. I'm not going to try and remember. But I think that whatever the thing is that you've produced, you're doing, I think you have a duty to your audience to create goosebumps. And I think that can take many different forms. It can be the hairs on the back of your neck. It can make you terrified. It can make you feel really emotional. It can make you laugh out loud. It can make you do a lot of things. But if you think about the responsibility of whatever you are producing, and everybody that entrusts their £20, £50, £100, whatever it is, with you, you have to treat that responsibility as sacrosanct. And I think that if you can elicit some of those emotions from somewhere where they really feel something and they remember something, and it's beyond the going to Instagram that, going to TikTok that, going to look at me doing these cool things, where you can actually make them come away with something, which probably means putting their phone down and allowing them to be in that moment, then I think you're doing something quite real. And I think that, I don't know, as we go forward, allowing people, I remember probably a decade ago, Secret Cinema taking my phone off me and locking it in this little purse. And there was people going, well, what about the babysitter? What about, I need my phone. And I was liberated. I was like, great, take it away. I want to be in this. I want to be in this right now. And I'll be in it for an hour and a half, 2 hours, however long. And it changes the way that people are, because you give them permission to not be doing this. You give them permission to escape it. And we're all so, the algorithms that these channels have are so powerful. Kids don't stand a chance. Adults, we're all fighting to put them down. So I feel like you have a responsibility when you produce these shows to give people a real life moment, and goosebumps is one of those metrics you'd look for. But give them a moment that they come away that they don't forget, that they talk about. Give them something that is beyond everything that they've seen before. Give them make them, if you're in horror, make them scared out of their mind. If you're talking about love, make them feel feelings. And I think that's the responsibility. So whatever it is, make people feel something. Make them feel something.
I like that. Kate, what do you think? I really like the goosebumps analogy. I think that's great.
Yeah. I love everything that Damian just said. I think that's what is at the core of it, is coming away with that memory of that sort of emotional moment. I think one of the things that you were making me think about, Damian, is like the sort of trend and tension that we've seen over the last 5, 10, 20 years. It keeps going back and forth between sort of what I'd call like lean in entertainment and lean out, right? So there's this stuff like, escape rooms or those kind of things that really ask you have to lean in, right? You can't just like kind of hang out and wait. You gotta participate, right? And then there's the lean back, like those Van Goghs where like, I can just kind of like sit here and take it in and it all just comes to me, right? And so I think it's really, really interesting how we kind of keep shifting back and forth and sliding back and forth and are always kind of seeking the right balance in the experience, because different people want different things, right? You're always going to have audience members who want that extra amount of lean in. They want to do things. They want to discover things. They want to kind of take part in creation. And you're going to have audience members who are like, I just want you to bring it to me. Like, I just want you to give me an experience. And so I'll name check, like this was a tiny little production, and it was a perfect balance. It was called Escape from Godot. It was a show and an escape room. It was done by Mr. and Mischief, teeny tiny little company here in LA. And so they told you going in, if you treat this like a play, like Waiting for Godot, you will never leave. If you treat this like an escape room and only go looking for clues and trying to solve things, you will never leave, right? You have to feel the show and feel the moments when they're asking you to watch things and sit back, and the moments when they're telling you through their performances, oh, it's time for you to participate. It's time for you to jump in. One of the most enjoyable and amazing experiences of my entire life. And I wish they could figure out a way to scale it. It's a teeny tiny little thing, but so good.
I actually heard about that. That's on my list of things that I think would be really cool to see. So I'm glad to speak to someone that's been and really enjoyed it.
Yeah.
Very, very cool. And Christian, what about you then? Is there anything that you think is really goosebumpy? Anything that you think needs to happen to create success?
Well, I think Damian and Kate both bring up, a really important part of this, which is it is about the emotions and how we make people feel. But it also comes down to, we do a lot of work with brands and we do a lot of work with museums as well. But it's oftentimes they want to celebrate themselves, right? It's a celebration of the brand or the corporation or the subject. And the reality is the best experiences always celebrate the world of the audience. And unless you actually put yourselves in those shoes, right? We go back to the Mickey 10 Commandments that Marty Sklar created. It always starts with putting ourselves in the heart of the audience. And what Kate experienced there and mentioned was something that really does pull the audience in, lean in, celebrate their world. We could take them on a journey, but you have to make sure that we're doing it with the intention of the audience itself. And that's where that sense of getting the goosebumps is that thing that we often like to talk about, which is that sense of magic with heart, right? It's a sense of emotion, but done in something unexpected in a way that you haven't quite experienced before. And for example, that particular experience was slightly different because it was a combination of new things. And I think that's what we as designers and as operators and people who create these experiences or bring them in, we ultimately have to always remember who we're serving. And it's always the audience, and trying to make sure that we celebrate their world. It may take them on something so transformative and magical that it leaves them with something, again, a memory that they can't get anywhere else. And so that's our obligation as an industry, and we have to keep pushing on that.
Thank you. I'm going to go off piste again. I hope that's okay. I'm sorry, Alice and team, if it's not. So I would be really interested just talking to you all. We've talked about the emotions and how important it is to leave the audiences with something if they leave, but it's easier, as we've said, to do a kind of, a projection-based experience, or, do something that's very visual and Instagrammable. But how do you create an immersive experience that leaves people with that when it's more of an intense topic or more of a, you know, a serious or sensitive topic that needs that, you know, how do you balance that? Because I can imagine it's quite a different thing to doing something super fun and, you know, less sensitive. Kate, what do you, I hope you don't mind me going to you first.
No, not at all. I mean, I think we're like, not to sound repetitive, but it kind of goes back to the same thing where you're starting with that audience and you're thinking about, so for example, the World War II Museum, THG did the Freedom Theater, which was about that opened just a couple of years ago. This was about the why of World War II, right? It was about the four freedoms that Roosevelt talked about. And so when you think about that, you know, there's obviously a lot of hard stuff to talk about in World War II, right? You know, you got to think about, like, do you have to warn people ahead of time? Do you have to put in trigger warnings? Like, how do you frame the content? How do you set it up? But also, it's always going back to that personal story, right? This can't just be an abstract thing about, you know, oh, these freedoms, you know, it's about freedom from want, you know, I should know the four freedoms. I always forget the four of them, right? Freedom of speech, right? Because that's too abstract. You have to tie it down then to a personal story, because that's what it was about. It was about men and women making the choice to join the war effort in various ways, whether fighting or supporting in other ways, because these freedoms were so important, right? And so that the sacrifice of life was not an abstract thing. These freedoms aren't an abstract thing. It comes down to the personal stories, right? So it's, in many ways, it's the same as telling a story in an IP-based world, right? Because it's a personal story of those characters, or it's not going to connect with you.
Yeah, thank you. And Damian, how do you manage something that's so intense and something that's less, you know, it's less fun, but it's still an amazing experience that people should come and see, and it's, you know, it's still immersive? How do you balance that?
We did do King Tutankhamun recently, and we're doing Pompeii right now. You've got a responsibility to be historically accurate, that there's original artifacts there, but FKP Scorpio, who worked with Mad Digitalis, who the producers and promoters for it. What's interesting, and my son went through it on Monday, who's 8, and he loved it. And it's got a blend of original artifacts, and you know, you kind of set the scene with the history of it. But you're very early on, you're into a VR experience, which puts you in, you know, into Pompeii, and you grab old people and little people in the same way. It's not a lot of people have done VR. I think, like, in our world, we've seen it, but your average visitor, not many have done it, and it's getting better. I've got certain feelings on VR, but it is definitely improving. And it's 7 minutes, so it's quick, but it's really captivating. And you do that, and then you go into some more original artifacts. And then you've got the long 10-meter high projection room. And again, that's 25 minutes, and it's captivating. And you come out, and there's a lot of cause and effect for the smaller ones. But then what they've done well is the adults get the time to read about the history of it, get to understand it. And I think that, you know, being able to design something for large and small, that it can have interactive fun elements, and at the end your AI turns you into a gladiator or something, and you know, and it's cheap thrills, right? But you kind of leave laughing, but you're bringing to life history in a way that I think that certainly with children, that they are being talked to in a language that they understand. They're surrounded by digital all the time. They want to be stimulated and excited. They're not reading small plaques on walls. They're not interacting with a museum in the way that my generation and older have done and would do. But equally, I don't think that an older generation are anti-technology. I think they put on the VR headset and go, wow, that was incredible. You're taking me back in time. And how do you do that? And I think that, you know, my dad's still enthralled by the TV that shows the art in our house. He just can't understand that it's not a picture. It's, you know, he's always blown away by that stuff. So it doesn't have to be laugh a minute and excitement. It needs to be true to the subject and be done professionally and not lazily and just always stick that up there and call it digital, and actually, treat it with the respect that it deserves, whether it's Titanic or Pompeii or King Tut. And we're seeing that with the reviews. I think if you look at Pompeii online, it's 4.8 stars off Google reviews.
Wow.
People it really resonates with them, and they've done a really good job, and it's reflected in sales as well.
Yeah, I should say, I remember I really enjoyed when I came to see King Tut. I really enjoyed the combination of the VR headset and the walkabout and the big projection room, but you had artifacts there as well. I think that was a really interesting, it's a really nice combination to be able to read the plaques, to be able to see physical things that are thousands of years old, and then stick on a VR headset and actually explore an area. And I think it speaks really well to, I guess, making history more accessible. And yeah, I think that's really cool. Christian, with the Johnny Walker experience from Prince History, I know that's quite a different thing, but that's, again, it's making, I imagine with that project, you had to make something that in my head seems quite inaccessible to many people, or not many, how do you make that an accessible experience?
Well, it's a great question. And it started initially with the insights, right? The audience insights and understanding the nature of where Scotch is in the world. Working with THG closely on that project, they realized that Scotch has a bit of an issue with audiences, right? Younger audience specifically. So we knew that we needed to create something contemporary, something different that would attract new people into the category, and also leans towards a little bit more towards women than men, which is not a typical thing. But what we found is that with that audience research, and you have a 200-year legacy brand. I mean, we had tons of issues. Some people didn't even know that Johnny Walker was a Scotch brand. I mean, a lot of people thought it was made up in the U.S., like in a New York marketing office. And so there are a lot of challenges around it. But I think what we realized after doing the research and spending the time and actually walking, that there was somebody named John Walker, that he grew up just outside of Kilmarnock. He was a real young person. At 14, he lost his parents and had to get set up with this grocery store. It's a true story. This family really built this incredible company over the years. The first distillery they bought was a woman-owned business, Elizabeth and Helen Cummings, these two pioneering women living up in Speyside on a farm. I mean, incredible stories, but just weren't being told. So we found a way to make it contemporary, right? 8 floors of experiences. I'd say the one thing is not a one-size-fits-all with the world of whiskey. We know that there are people like me who collect whiskey, teach, I give classes on whiskey. And then there's others who are, I don't know anything about it. Or my mom who's like, you give her a dram at 10 in the morning, forget it. She's like, just, it's not going to happen. So I think we had to find a way to make it unique and personal. And so what we did is we used AI and we used new technologies to create a personalized experience for everybody. We made sure that first liquid lips moment, that first moment of truth, was followed by a really emotional story, and that people could have the drink their way, right? That flavor journey. There's an AI sort of technique and a whole new system that we created. And that first highball moment is a 95% conversion moment. That first liquid lips moment, we have a conversion of almost 98% on brand conversion on that experience, and the NPS is through the roof. And that's because we went back, we understood the emotions, we understood the audience, we understood the operations. We didn't create a one size fits all. So if you're a whiskey aficionado, we've got great experiences. If you're a VIP, we have the vault. If you're coming into the industry and you're a bartender, you want to train for world class, we have learning for life experiences in the best bartending academy in the world. And we have the best view in the city to see the castle, right? We took advantage of a combination of things, not one thing, but a combination of things to create something that was truly interesting, immersive, and emotional for a wide range of audiences. And it's working really, really well. We're very proud with the results of the project. So is Diageo. But it's definitely a combination of things, and it goes back to a lot of the same things we just talked about.
I'd love to know what challenges you're facing in your businesses. I know there's similarities, there's differences between all of you, but I'd love to know, just from a general sense, what are the challenges? I know the saturation we've spoken about, and audiences being maybe tighter with their money and what they're spending things on. But what are the biggest challenges that you guys are facing? Open to the panel.
So I'll jump in with something.
Thank you.
So I think there's a couple different things. So there's the Christian actually kind of mentioned this a little bit earlier. When I do a lot of museums and cultural attractions as well, and one of the things we're seeing, particularly since the pandemic, is funding has shifted quite a bit, right? A lot of those big donors that were donating to museums and theater companies and those kind of things are changing how they're donating, and so now those institutions are having to find new ways to raise money, new ways to connect with their community, and it becomes even more important that what they're putting on is delivering not just on their mission, but also delivering on, an ROI and being able to kind of help them stay afloat. So that's kind of one side of things. I think the other is sort of the sort of perennial problem of like, why should I go to your thing, right? How do I know about it? How do I get kind of the enough about it that I don't know the whole experience, but I know that this is something that is going to attract me? And then in this sort of environment that we're in, where I could stay home and scroll, I could do many other experiences out there, right? There's kind of a lot going on. What is it about my experience, this thing, that makes you have to get off the couch and come to see this because it's just that good?
Thank you. What about you, Christian?
I think there's a few things. We've already touched on this a few times, but I think the business case versus the rising costs. I was talking to some people out of Scotland, Visit Scotland and so forth, and a lot of it's the thing that Damian mentioned. Trying to find the right balance between whether it's headcount within the operational team, the actual sort of day-to-day operational costs, even food. There are a lot, like tourism's actually up in Scotland, but the sort of economic conditions around everything right down to F&B can really turn a business case upside down. It has nothing to do with anything, the conditions are outside of your control. So, if all of a sudden food goes up X, then the challenge to make profit on that F&B goes down. And so you start to get these really tricky challenges between business case and the rising costs of labor, goods, and also just the ongoing costs of what it costs to actually the admission ticket, because that's related to it.
Yeah.
In a way. And I think that's one of the things that we are always talking about in the industry is leaving more people out. Just because if the admission prices continue to climb, we see this at the major parks, it's actually luxury pricing. Very few people can afford to do it. It used to be something that we all did. And the further and further we divide or sort of create that separation, the ability for people who can have experiences and can experience things, it just continues to add to that, I think, that growing challenge that we have globally, and a sort of level of uncertainty that's happening right now. So I think those shifting headwinds are hard, and trying to find the balance of that is going to continue to be a bit of a trick, especially with the way things are happening globally. And there's still, I thought, 2026, we're going to be fine. No, we'll finally figure out where the stabilization is. And it feels like, okay, we're heading right back into another interesting year.
Yep.
Leave it at that. And I think the other piece of it too is just there's a constant education. I think, Damian, you understand this because you operate and own, and Kate, you understand this too, is you're educating clients. So much of what we're doing is working with clients that make them truly understand what it takes to keep these things going and sort of being successful. And that means having the right marketing plan. We've seen so many attractions that just get it wrong. They don't get out early enough and really understand that they have to market early, and they have to put that investment in well ahead of when they're opening the attraction. You'd be shocked at how much education there needs to be done around that sort of subject. And we've seen projects that were fantastic that just failed right out of the gate because of the marketing. And then the other piece of it is the reinvestment. I think you've got to put the money back into these projects, and oftentimes you see people who don't really set aside the right amount to reinvest. I mean, parks understand it, but even smaller attractions. Look at Storehouse. We work with Guinness Storehouse 10 years after opening with a strategic plan, and help them redefine their business strategy in North Star. That was because they knew they needed to do those reinvestments. And it was a staged approach, but you have to be thinking about it. So I think those are constant things that are challenges, getting clients to understand the importance of that, and making sure that we as an industry too don't look for the quick win and take, and really coach our clients and create successful. We want to create successful projects, because if we create successful projects, then everyone wins. If the industry goes for quick wins and losses or really bad projects that don't turn ROI and fail very quickly, that also does a lot of damage to the industry. So, and we do have to make some bets. I'm not saying you can't, be so safe that you don't make some bets, but you can't have everything be in that sort of quick win, get money scheme. It can't be that. We're here for the long run as an industry. We've been here a long time, and we believe in the power of experiences, especially now, to create places that truly make a difference in the world.
Thank you. And Damian, what about you from an Immerse London side? Because you really, you've completely just redeveloped that whole area, and now you've got loads of experiences, and it's just going wonderfully. So what challenges do you see, and what challenges have you faced?
I wish politics had calmed down. I wish the media had stopped telling everyone they're so much poorer. That does play a part in consumer confidence. It really does. I think London is very strong at the moment, but I think there's an oversaturation of things in the market, and that causes some problems. In that, I still think with such an embryonic industry that I hear these conversations, and if people go to, like, for a family to go to London, our average journey time is about an hour and a half. So they've invested that money that day, maybe a hotel, maybe, but certainly on trains or on tubes, or if they drive. And there's a lot of stock placed in that thing. And if that thing is an immersive experience that doesn't deliver, that is built to be an hour and a half, and they do it in 30 minutes, and it's all the things that we talked about earlier, those elements are wrong, and they come away and it's bad, then that conversation is, oh, I'm not doing another immersive experience, that was terrible. Yeah. And it's kind of no. Like if you go to the West End and you go to a theatre show you don't enjoy, you don't go, I'm never going to the West End again, right? Or you go to the movie theatre and you watch a film and it doesn't do all the things you want to do. Like, a colleague of mine went to see Marty Supreme, and it was and he said he found it a really hard watch. I haven't seen it, I don't know, but I'm really looking forward to seeing it because it's been really hyped. But you don't go, I'm never going back to that cinema because that was rubbish. I saw a film, and that means that all films are bad. But because this is still exploding as an industry, that trying to find that benchmark of quality, which we're doing, and we strive to do all the time at Immerse London, that people know that it's a safe haven for, they walk in the door, the production values are going to be there. It's going to be, you're going to have good actors, good staff, and that it's been built and put together with love and care, and that they care about whether you have a great time or not. Every time someone goes to something that's just been put up in a warehouse that doesn't have any heating, with someone trying to make a quick buck, it can erode that. So I think that's the challenge. I think the leveling up of the industry to make sure that there's certain production standards and welfare for actors and all of the aspects of being a more grown-up industry is really, really important. You can't make someone have a good time. You don't, you can spend millions. It doesn't mean you're going to get the correct interpretation of whatever that IP is. But I think there are certain rules that need to be adhered to be able to make sure that we maintain that level of quality in what's committed, and that will build consumer confidence in going to more things, rather than, I saw that film, it was bad, I'm never going back to the cinema, which doesn't exist, does it?
Thank you. I think I like that as an analogy, actually. That's a really good one. We need the kind of universal, this is what an immersive experience is. If you don't like it, it's okay. There's more.
And not
Yeah, they're not all gonna. Yeah, no, definitely. Well, thank you so much. I'm so grateful, everyone, for your time. Thank you, everybody, for watching. Yeah, really appreciate it, everyone, for your time. We're now going to be announcing the winners of the immersive experience category, which should play after this. And thank you so much. Speak to you all soon.
Thanks very much.
Thanks, everyone.
Everybody.
Bye.
I know.
And now for the winners of the Blue Loop Innovation Awards 2025 Immersive Experience category. Third place, Pixar Adventurous Journey from Disney Live Entertainment, Shanghai Disneyland Resort. Second place, John Wick Experience Las Vegas from Lionsgate. First place, Grease, the Immersive Movie Musical from Secret Cinema. Congratulations to all of the winners.